Completely Candid with Christian Blandin is brought to you by Completely Candid with Christian Blandin. What's up, guys? How are you doing? Was that funny? Cheesy? Definitely cheesy. Maybe it made one person laugh, and that's all I need. Anyway, welcome. How are you doing? I hope you're great. Today's episode is amazing, and I share a whole lot more than I expected to, and it was great. And I hope that you guys really take something away with this one today. We talk about mental health. It is something that is very near and dear to me, and the whole point of this and the reason why I chose to do this episode during this time was really, I just think, being home so much and how many crazy things and how many struggles that people are having to put up with this year in 2020 has been insane. And hopefully we are doing our best to try and push through it, but sometimes we need a little bit of help. And this was my effort to try and get you guys some help, and at least within this podcast, give you some information and motivation. The description also contains some resources for you guys as well. So let's just get into it. My guest today is a mental health advocate who is currently studying and training to be a licensed therapist. She runs a mental health account called selfcare.hugs, which aims to provide as many resources and as much information as possible with a goal to help and support anyone. She is a full-time behavior interventionist working with children with special needs and a clinical intern advocating and supporting survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the ever so excellent Athena Mesina. Boom. Yes. Here we go. What is up? Who are you? Who am I talking to?
I am Athena Mesina, and I'm excited to be here. So let's do it.
Excited to be present and alive and surviving 2020.
And healthy.
And healthy. All righty, let's get straight into it, folks. They'll figure out how we know each other in the intro. They'll learn. But tell everyone what you do and what you are all about.
Man, okay, I guess tagline main thing, I could say that I am a mental health advocate. So pretty much right now I am in a graduate program with National University studying to be a licensed therapist. And I'm 6 months away, I think, almost there. But yeah, so I'm doing that. My full-time job is a behavior interventionist. I'm helping children with special needs kind of integrate with their peers and kind of just provide support in like a school setting. And then on top of that, I am an intern for YWCA in LA. And it's a big nonprofit organization. It has locations everywhere. But the mission statement is eliminating racism and empowering women.
Well, yeah. It's two birds with one stone. That's interesting. Wow. Let's get into that. Let's just go straight for it.
Cool.
The question that just comes to mind, does the racism and like domestic violence ever cross over?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just find it interesting that it's those two things which are very important, but they're not necessarily the two things I would correlate being together very often.
Right. So they provide a number of services and a number of resources. So a lot of the target is on like low income neighborhoods. So there's a lot of overlap, but it's not to say that they are servicing people who are struggling with racism and sexual assault as like an umbrella. So it's just like a big, huge platform where they can help as many people as possible, and their driving forces are just like both of those things. I'm personally working in the sexual assault crisis bubble, so that's mainly where I am sitting. I just started too, so kind of just like a little exciting moment.
All right, that's awesome. Well, congrats on that since I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
Sweet. So the main reason why I have you on today is because of the Instagram page that I either posted or I stumbled upon at some point, but it is yours and it does revolve around mental health. Go ahead, tell us what it is and how you got started with that and any goals that you may currently have with the page.
Yeah. So it's called selfcare.hugs. I wanted it to be just like super inviting. It's not only about self-care. I talk a lot about, mental health education and I provide a lot of resources, but it's just kind of all under the umbrella of self-care, right? So it was kind of a spur of the moment type of thing when I made it, to be honest. I made it that day and I posted about it the next day. There wasn't too much planning that went into it. I was just getting like an overwhelming amount of information from, my work, the internship I talked about, and school. So I wanted to kind of put all of those things together and be able to provide resources for other people. And it was also kind of just a way for me to hold myself accountable in my mental health and self-care journey. So yeah, I put it together. I started like creating content and putting all the information that I've been learning. And yeah, it was born.
It was born, and it's pretty well put together. Everything on there is so like artistic and trendy, and I know you have artists that help you out and work on it. And yeah, it's easy to look at too. So when even if you're just going at look at the whole page and scrolling down, just like it just kind of flows nice and easy, and obviously to see like individual posts. I think it's a tough thing to do when you're trying to get a lot of like text and information onto a platform that's mostly just entertainment, I would say, or friends and people being funny or whatever else the people that they subscribe to or follow on the internet. So getting serious information on top of just information in general, especially in a text format, it's pretty impressive, and it's nice to see it grow so quick. How many followers is that page at right now?
I don't know. Let me look. I have
Because
it
every time I check, there's more and more, and you like just started doing this, and so I just think it's awesome that it's that something so. I think it's being talked about more, but at least the past couple of decades, it's been kind of been in the closet, under the rug, and a little hush hush. And so it's cool that now it's being shared publicly and just a little bit more accepted to talk about to just anyone, and not just a therapist or a doctor or something.
Yes, 100%. It's at around 4,000 and it did grow like way faster than I thought it would be because I know at first I was just like, this is kind of for me. And then also I do want to be able to help other people. So yeah, it's been growing super fast and I have a lot of people to be thankful for because of that. I've been doing a lot of giveaways and I think that's helped a lot because I've been like creating these like, I guess, self-care packages that
nice, get it, I get it.
like journaling tools, self-help or mental health information books. A lot of people don't really know where to look, and I get so many recommendations at school and work. So yeah, just putting a bunch of self-care things together. I put like brownies in there and like face masks, and I partner up with people who I really think would be a great fit with advocating for mental health, and they've been amazing and super helpful. So yeah, it's exciting, to be growing that fast. I'm just grateful for it. And then I guess as far as like creating the content, it's hard to talk about mental health for a lot of people, and putting it in a way that's readable and that's relatable has been really great. I myself am not an artist, so I did partner up with three awesome women who have been putting my resources and information and my ideas onto a pretty picture and, bringing it to life. So I'm thankful for them too. And yeah.
Super cool, super cool. And what, like, when do you decide to? I know mental health, self-care, it can be kind of self-explanatory, but how do you decide to put out information? Like how do you decide what to talk about in your post? Is it just whatever comes up in like your daily life and what you see at work? Or do you have like a purpose, like, okay, this month is going to be this thing? Or how do you plan out like all your information?
Honestly, I would love to be more organized and kind of like set in like this week we're going to talk about this and this month we're going to talk about this. But I've kind of found that there's never really a set, I guess, bracket for certain things. So I wanted to make it as free and as like, I don't know the word for it. But I wanted to just, kind of take the ideas as it goes. So the way it's set up with my artists is for each of them, I have a certain day that I send them the content, and then a certain day that they would send it to me so that I can post it. And to be completely honest, on the day that I have to send it to them, and sometimes they even have to remind me, I give the idea right then and there. And for me, in that way, it's a little bit more genuine and it's a little bit more seamless instead of me kind of just aimlessly racking up information. And so, yeah, I do it that way. It's been working so far. Also, another way that I come up with the content is people have been DMing me for, certain resources.
Information.
Yeah, exactly. So I have private conversations with some people, and then I kind of curate that into like a more general post, so to speak, so that I can help to inform maybe other people who might be struggling with similar things as they are. So, yeah.
All right. Have you noticed that there are more like topics that are being more requested or more engaged with within your posts so far? Even though, how long have you been doing it so far?
Since July.
Since July. Nice.
July, yeah, like 2-3 months.
Yeah, and it's already growing super quick. But yes, have you noticed that there are some things that people are asking or inquiring more about than others?
Yeah, a lot of people have been struggling with anxiety, which is completely understandable and completely relevant to, the climate. And, there's so many things going on. And so there's a lot of things to be anxious about. So I try my best to touch on that. But while that is a more common thing, I also do try my best to balance that out with things that are not so much requested, but I have information on. So every now and then I've posted information about borderline personality disorder or obsessive compulsive disorder, and things that, some people aren't too familiar with, but they might be experiencing it. So a big thing for me in mental health is a lot of people are experiencing things and they may not know what's happening. So I try to spread out, what's more common and what's less common so that I can kind of touch base in as many places as possible.
All right. Yeah. Wow. There's a lot of cool things that I want to touch on there.
Okay.
One things I'll go ahead and get more personal first is identifying like what's going on. Now, I don't know if you know this, but growing up when I had first moved away from the home that I grew up in and to a new school, new city and everything. I'm not dropping names on purpose to keep reputation for everyone.
Yes.
And so when I moved to this new school, new place, I didn't know anyone, and I had made friends, and this is like around ages 11, 12, sixth grade. And so during that time, it's like pre-teen stage, and you're starting to like get more mature, you're a little bit more independent with, especially at that time, getting on the internet or watching TV on your own and kind of being more mature and getting to more mature content. And so I think with that, your humor changes. As a comedian, I'm all into dark humor. However, as a kid, it could be a little bit tough to understand. You still have, there's no experience yet, so you have to really learn when and where is the place to have, dark humor or offensive humor. Like even with my friends, I banter with them, and like we'll give each other crap now, and tease them, and it's all in good fun. But when you're a kid, you don't know boundaries. You don't know, when is it too far, and maybe when you're receiving it, and this is actually what happened to me, is that I didn't realize that there was a threshold that was being broken on my side as far as like receiving this sort of, was supposed to be humor, right? But over time, it just kind of started eating away at me. It was mostly like, it was verbal, bullying, and it was, part of them was like, unfortunately, was my friends, then extended friends, part of the group. And I don't think anyone ever did it maliciously, at least from what I can remember. But you do that over a course of a year, being new, your body's changing, emotions are different. You're trying to understand the world, really, I think, for the first time, as, trying to understand, getting to adulthood and all that. And so that eventually became overwhelming for me. And in retrospect, I realized that I just didn't know that I was being bullied,
Yep.
that line was being crossed. But pretty much all of sixth grade, I put up with it. At first, it was fine. And on a day-to-day basis, I thought, it's just another day. Until just one day I cracked, and I acted out. I got in trouble playing basketball outside of the school. And then a couple of guys were up to no good. Started making, no joke. Not just a Fresh Prince reference. That's actually how it happened. I got in trouble playing basketball. We started playing a little bit rough. And then I threw a basketball, and then I said bad words to someone that was like telling me to calm down off to the side. And so, unfortunately, I wasn't able to identify that, hey, like I'm not in a good space right now. And these boundaries are clearly like not set with, 11 and 12-year-olds. But granted, we didn't have boundaries as far as like our verbal communication and what was supposed to be humor and all good fun. And eventually it hurt me over time. And, unfortunately I hurt other people because of that, because I didn't understand, and I wasn't able to seek help because I didn't really know that I was in any sort of like situation.
Yeah, so I have so much, I have like thoughts bouncing off the walls. But yeah, for me, honestly, I always say this, you probably see it in like every post, but for me, first step, mental health awareness. It's awareness. So everyone has so many things happening inside, past, present, everything's piling up, and most people have no idea, what they're struggling with. So that's the biggest thing for me. That's why I don't like to always just post positive quotes all the time. Because while that's great and I love that and I'm supportive of that and a lot of people love that type of content, I want to put out informational stuff, educational stuff, how people are getting diagnosed, real like tangible information that people can use that, like for example, your situation as a kid having zero idea about probably mental health at all. I mean, when I don't know if I'm sure it's similar for you, but for me, when I was a kid and you hear the words like anxiety or depressed, you're just like, oh my God, like, what is that? People are crazy. Like, why are they so sad?
Right.
And the first step, again, it's awareness. Just hearing that one piece of information or that one symptom that makes you go, wait a second, that resonates with me, or I can relate to that. And so that's like super big for me.
Right. Yeah. It's just crazy. Especially it's tough as a kid, just because I don't think you really know yourself as a child.
Oh yeah.
But at least as an adult, I'd imagine we'd be a little bit more aware, or even teenagers, they're starting to understand themselves a little bit more. What are some of the more common things that change in someone's behavior or in their day-to-day when it comes to experiencing like negative side of their mental stability?
Well, teenage years, and everyone can relate to that, is a freaking crazy time. And a lot, some of the most common things that individuals in middle school and high school deal with are depression and anxiety. And a lot of that has to do with, not only pressures in the family, pressures on yourself, pressures of society, pressures of your friends. There's so many things. So, yeah, I'm like going off. I don't even remember the question. I'm like going off on a tangent. But yeah, so during those times, so many things are changing. You're meeting new people, you're gaining new perspectives. A lot of, what I could speak to is family background. Mental health is not really something that you talk about in your family when you're Asian. At least I can speak for like Filipino culture, or I guess I've spoken to many other Asian cultures, people with other Asian backgrounds, and they have similar stories where, mental health is like non-existent. I feel like I can say non-existent. So
right. I think one, I've seen it in forums too where people discuss, and specifically in the Asian American community forums that I'm in, that there's the trope of like the Asian dad that just like they drive you everywhere, and you go to the mall and they just kind of like sit there, do their thing while you're off shopping and having a good time, and they're all quiet. They don't talk about emotions. They don't say I love you. And they're strict. They want you home by a certain time. And that could also be, the mother as well. That's more like, there's like the tiger mom, the infamous tiger mom trope, where it's like, they're on top of you about studying, getting your extracurriculars. Don't be spending too much time having fun. And I think that could be very stressful, especially as an Asian American, because if you have parents that are from, outside of the US and they act a certain way, and basically they act within their culture, and you're growing up within the American culture, and you're watching a lot of TV shows and movies that are all like, oh yeah, having a good old grand time here, the Disney life, everything's amazing, and everyone's home, and the people in this movie have parents that are together, and and that's a whole other thing. There's so many things that could be going on, and so yeah, I think that even from my experience too, when I heard of anxiety or depression as a kid, Asian American or not, whether I just heard it in school, if it ever did come up, or on TV, or like in a show or movie, my understanding is that it was always like some sort of severe clinical thing, almost like a chemical imbalance that had to be dealt with through medicine. In some cases that that is it. However, the spectrum and the range of mental health was not even in view. It was like if you're depressed or you had anxiety, you had a serious problem, and you had to go to a doctor, and they'll give you medicine, you'll be fine. That was the extent of what I remember as a kid. It was like that's what mental health was. Mental health wasn't even a phrase back then. It was just anxiety and depression. The only time I ever heard about it on TV was in like it'd be a TV show or for those ads for pharmaceuticals, for new drugs to take care of random things, and the side effects are always anxiety and depression and diarrhea. So yeah, man, it's cool that this is opening up.
Yeah, so as anxiety and depression are like some of the most common mental health problems, they're overlooked most of the time. Like, in a little bit of like more of a personal sense, I had been dealing with anxiety and depression for a long time already, and I never knew it. So kind of just like, a similar thing to what we've already been talking about, like people grow up thinking these things are so severe when really it could just be, you're losing interest in the activities that you've been doing, or you're appetite is down or up, or you're having a hard time sleeping, or, there's so many, smaller things in day-to-day life that people don't connect the dots, that maybe they're struggling with something, and you don't necessarily need medication right away unless, it's extremely severe. Yeah, and you can just talk to people about it, seek professional help, and go to therapy. All things that were not really an option or weren't really presented as an option. So I think it's so amazing how mental health, I mean, I feel it's been progressing, but in 2020 alone, um, with so many imbalances and the pandemic and social injustice and so many, the world is on fire.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
People are talking about it, and
they're home. A lot of them are home, and they're just watching the news all day or seeing the news pop up on Twitter or wherever they get their information. And even if they're not looking for news, it's on their pages. People are talking about it.
It's awesome. I think for me with my mom, my mom, she's like the strongest person ever.
She is.
Will never budge, So
okay, just to make so this is not weird for people listening. We're cousins, and her mom, her mom is my godmother, and she's amazing, and she is strong, both internally and externally. She'll kick your butt.
Yeah, I'm not just name dropping my mom to someone I'm not too comfortable with. So yeah, so her. She's strong. She won't. You will never see her down. So that was always something to look up to, and my grandma's the same exact way. So it's just kind of like a recurring thing in my family, where it's like, be strong, which is amazing. But then in times where like I've felt down or felt weak, I'm like telling myself, no, you can't do that. You can't be down. So this is like, it's crazy the doors that are opening for this type of thought process, because I feel like even with my mom being that way, and completely to not her fault, that while they were growing up, it was even more non-existent. It was even crazier to talk about these things. But recently she's been sending me resources for mental health, virtual, what are the, like, lectures and stuff like that. And I think it's like super cool. That's super cool. And, people in our parents' generation, they weren't, they didn't learn too much about it unless they were in the field or, something like that, especially again with Asian culture. So just that as kind of a showing point in my personal life that, it's working. People are talking about it, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah. And now we're young, and because this is pretty new, I think it's more common for our generations and those after us to be more familiar with mental health and resources, and being able to be open and to, if they don't, talk about it openly with anyone, to at least seek help and take advantage of the resources out there. However, with that, from my experience, and I don't know if you've seen this as well, but I've seen that the older generations, to me, it almost seems like they have a chip on their shoulder that this wasn't a topic or an up and coming thing that it is now, where people are open about it. And so that's how I interpret it, is that they're almost upset that we're not struggling emotionally or mentally with certain things. And I understand, because back in my day, we would just, we just tough it out and get through it. Right. And you suck it up, and if you need to go out on a drive, you on your pillow or something, and you just take care of it on your own. And that, I think, is so crazy. And I commend them for taking care of it, and doing whatever they did to get through the struggles. However, it does seem more efficient to talk to someone who especially is educated and dedicates their life to helping others have a release and be able to, navigate their own mind and emotions so that way they could just get over that hump a lot faster and go back to enjoying life and focusing on their career or their friends and their hobbies rather than being so stuck and having to be like, oh, I have to fix this problem here. I'm going to spend my whole weekend with Ben and Jerry's and ice cream and sad movies on Netflix and watch weird documentaries, whatever you need to do. I don't know. That's what I've seen with the contrasting like older and younger generations is that, I mean, it happens with every new generation. It's like, oh, back in my day, we used to do this and it was so much better the old way. And I don't know. I think it's silly. I understand what they're trying to say. However, I mean, do you see that at all with older people in general?
Personally, I haven't had too many interactions with anybody in that generation except for my mom or my dad or my aunt. But I completely see what you're saying, and I completely can read that. I know in the past, my mom has told me like, you'll get through it, and that's amazing. Like I tell people that all the time. But
the way your mom does it too is like
get over it.
she looks like she's just a commander in charge. Like she just pushing through it like it ain't nobody's business. Just like nothing. Like I feel like she's just like charging in an army with tanks and helicopters like up a hill. Just like if there's a problem, she just trucking through it. That's the craziest thing about her. Is like she doesn't show like the weakness, And then at times I ever see her like even just look tired, I'm like, there's times you have times where you're tired. Like you're this strong lady that's like just made of steel. And so yeah, I love
like,
it.
Maybe it does work that way.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, man. I don't know if it's a poker face or what, but she does a fantastic job of, taking care of it. And I think especially, taking care of you and your sister and whatnot, she's like really coming up and responding to the call of duty. And that's the best way I can describe it, is that whenever something needs to be done, whether it's good or bad, she will step up and just take it like a boss, really. It's awesome.
Yeah, dude. She's I don't even
You better be watching this too.
I'm gonna
send it to you.
But I think that's cool because, like some of the things that you said, like for her, she just needs to go out and have a spa day or get a massage, or like you said, some other people are just like, go for a drive or yell in your pillow. Those are all coping skills that you can use to heal yourself. And those are things that, they say, oh, just do this and you'll be fine. But in reality, those are things that you're doing to cope and to release your emotional stressors or anything that's upsetting you. So we are now just talking about it. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe in their generation, they would just do it. But now we're talking about it because there are some people who won't go and do that. There are some people who won't yell in a pillow or won't go for a drive. Or won't unplug, and they'll do something else that could be, self-harming or self-destructive. So talking about that can help other people. So I think that's the biggest piece, and that's like the coolest part, because a lot of, because your mom too, they're the same, just strong, get it done type of people. So we can learn by talking to people like that and learning, the different types of things that they do. So it's cool. It's cool to see like a connection or a mix between how they grew up and how we're growing up, and how we can kind of just enhance that to help more people.
Now, you mentioned for those that decide or just end up not trying to cope or using those coping mechanisms, when does that usually happen? What is it that is typically the cause of them not trying to deal with it? Is it awareness? I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a mix of things, but what are like the more common things? Is it awareness? Are they embarrassed?
There's so many things. I can only speak for myself, but also people I've talked to and clients and case studies and whatnot of people just feeling like nobody's there. No one's going to listen. Even if I talk to somebody, they're not going to understand. We have like as humans, this like thing inside of us that tells us whatever we're going through, nobody's ever going to understand it, and nobody has ever gone through it. And so that's a lot of, the recurring things that I've seen that kind of digs people into that hole. And it's something that I've also dealt with, just like, I'm going through this and I'm pretty sure I'll be fine. So I'm just not going to talk about it, and I'm not going to get help for it. And then later that just starts to build up and build up. And then one day you have that break, like you were talking about, and you're like, maybe I do need help. Where can I get that? What can I do? And then on top of that, there's the stress of mental health not even being that accessible. So people, resort to those things, and it's really unfortunate, and it's a hard topic, and it's just, yeah. So that's what I've seen, and people, awareness is a big thing. So with feeling these things and feeling like no one's going to listen, it's that ding, light bulb. This is what I'm struggling with. Now I'm aware. This is what I'm feeling. This is who I can talk to. This is where I can go. This is what I can do. So those resources, it's gold, and a lot of people just don't have access to them.
Right. And speaking of which, I'll make sure that we include as much as possible in the description, so you guys have something to bounce off of, not just the self-care page, but anything that you'd like to throw into, please get it out there. This big reason why I'm doing this like right now and having this recording an episode with you at this time, and hopefully when this comes out, it's still going to be September, God willing, and with editing and all that. But it is, is it international? But it's at least National Suicide Prevention Month, correct? And
yes.
So there's a day, there's a week. We passed both of those, and now we're still within the month. And
yes.
To me, that is something I had super close to home, and a lot of things, what you just said, especially that feeling of no one's there and no one understands and no one's listening. Yeah. Going back to, getting in trouble and shooting b-ball outside of the school. This is sixth grade, and looking back at it, it's so sad that I was feeling this way. Not to, just feel sad for myself, but to know that someone that young could go through this. That was exactly how I felt. There's, and then tying both those things together, there were two different times where I felt that, no one was there. There's no one I could talk to, especially because, people I was hanging out with were the ones that were hurting me. Unfortunately, they were my friends. And I'm still friends with some of these people today, and there's no way they really intended for that to be it. But being inexperienced, misguided 11 and 12-year-olds, we make mistakes like that all the time. And unfortunately, I just didn't speak up. But I had this own dialogue in my own head over time, and feeling that like I was alone, and because they're my friends, I can't go talk to them about it because, they're the problem, unfortunately, at that time. And it brought me to a point where there was two separate occasions where I had made efforts to not be around anymore. And I'm really, really hoping that this episode reaches, everyone, but especially younger ones, that are maybe even in elementary school. I don't know if you'll get this if you're being allowed to be on the internet this deep, but especially teenagers. And that's when I experienced, probably the most range of emotions, or like especially those early teenage years. And so just know that there's people out there, especially now with technology, it's so great. There are resources out there, and that's why doing this episode is so that you can at least get onto the self-care Instagram page and, you know, see something positive and hopefully learn something that helps you. And if not, you can message her and reach out and try and get some information and get some help. But don't be afraid, man. Hopefully you have at least one friend. If not, you know, your parents, if not a school counselor. Trust me, speak up instead of waiting for something to happen. You know, luckily what happened for me was an outburst of anger and frustration in public in front of people. Whereas had I been successful with what were like my 2 suicide attempts as a 6th grader, you know, I wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. You know, I would have missed out on a lot of time and a lot of cool things. So that's why I wanted to do this today. But please reach out, guys. Please reach out. Even to me, I'll do my best. I'm not a professional, but I am a comedian, so hopefully I can make you laugh. And hopefully I can relate to you, and then hopefully I can do even better and relay you to professionals and advocates that are well linked up, like my guest here. But enough of me. I just wanted to get even more personal and share why I'm doing this. I don't just do episodes for the sake of episodes and content, but this is something that truly hits home for me, especially, you know, I've been a martial arts instructor for a while now, and being around kids and coaching kids and even coaching adults who have kids, you know, I get to know their families, and I love being a part of their growth and seeing them be healthy. You know, because martial arts is not only just a physical outlet, but emotional and mental outlet as well. And so it's so nice to be a part of that. But, you know, I would hate to ever see one of my students or my own friends and family with younger ones, or even them themselves, like, you know, be struggling with this. And so my friends too, my family, let me know. Let's talk. Like the goal. Anyone. Everybody, you know, not just for the young ones. It's just I had that experience when I was super young. But, you know, anyone else to talk, let's talk. And please, if you're open to it, just do what I just did and invite other people to talk to, because it's going to make a difference. And the only way for this to become more normal and more accessible and more, you know, well known is you guys sharing the word. Go share a page, go share a link, go share a photo, or even just say, you know, there's that whole thing like go see how your friends are doing or whatever. Like there's a whole hashtag. Make sure your friends are okay. That's the one. And I think there's even a whole podcast on that too. Hopefully that's a pretty good one for people too. But yeah, guys, to sum it up, please talk. But we'll get back to you. Do you have anything to add to any of that? Do you have any?
I appreciate you for sharing that, and I think that is like the first step that can pull a lot of people out of what they're going through. Just as an example, you know, I recently was in a training group for sexual assault survivors, and, you know, just getting informed about the history of sexual assault, and then we are having a lot of discussions, a lot of, you know, probing questions. Everybody input their answer. Some were a little bit more reserved than others. But there was always somebody who shared their story more in depth. And then that made somebody else want to speak up. And then that made somebody else want to share their stories. And by the end of what was like almost 60 hours of learning and talking, almost every single person in our training group had shared their traumatic experience. And that's amazing. So exactly what you said, if something happened to you or you're experiencing something, it's important to find that safe space or to find that safe person, even if it's someone you don't know, even if it's your one trusted adult or your best friend or somebody that you can just let it go on, because it can be self-destructive in itself to suppress it, and zero pressure, but because 100% is going to come out when it's ready, and it's going to come out in its own time. But yeah, especially when you're younger, that is like the biggest thing. Like my goal in life is to catch those things earlier, you know. I myself had similar ideations, suicidal ideations, and it's like a lot to digest that somebody could even think that way, but I've thought that way. And so many people think that way and nobody talks about it. So, yeah, reach out to people even when you don't want to, even when it's hard. Somebody will listen to you. Yeah, it's important.
And it's okay. That's the biggest thing, that it's okay. You know, I think on my side, I think part of it was being ashamed that I even like thought like that or went that far, and guilt of like what I may have been, you know, what I could have put my family through. And so I didn't talk about it for the longest time. And now I'm at a point where I'm older, and it's been quite a while that I'm openly talking about it. If it ever comes up, I like try to share that like almost right away, just because I do believe in the power of testimony, like you said, and I hope people open up if you're open about it. I think it can definitely just, grease things up, so that way it'll get the ball rolling, and they'll be a little bit more open to, even if it's not speaking to you, at least speaking to someone, because they know that, okay, hey, like sharing is a thing, and there are people willing to talk, and there are people willing to listen. And so, yeah, guys, it's okay. I think that's the hardest part, right? Is when, after knowing that there's people there and that you are not alone, is that it's okay to use those resources, and it's okay to see another day. It's worth it. Trust me. I did a lot of cool stuff after living. Tomorrow is always good, and tomorrow can always be better. If today wasn't great, you always got tomorrow, man. All you got to do is just keep waking up,
Yeah, and isn't it just, it's just sad that we live in a world where somebody should feel bad that they've experienced trauma, and they should feel they feel shameful, they feel guilt that it was their fault. Everything goes inward, or like, now I am feeling suicidal, but why is, like, it's my fault that I feel that way, and I hate why I'm even thinking like this. So this is like something that, to be transparent, I'm even working on with my therapist. I'll tell her one thing, and then I'll tell her that I'm mad at myself for thinking that way. She'll ask me like, so what's coming up for you? And I'm like, general speaking, feelings of self-doubt. And then I'm like, but I'm mad at myself about that. Why am I doubting myself? So we're like wired to like fight with ourselves and think of these things. And it's just such a crazy concept to wrap my head around. I feel like I have the answer to all of my problems, but I don't internally feel that way because I've been so wired to think that, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like, I just think it's so sad because people are feeling this way and they have no idea where to put it. And it's not cool. It's not cool to have a world where people who feel unsafe feel even more unsafe when, in those times. So it's hard. And that's why I'm so happy and like blessed to have this account and to be able to reach as many people as I can, and just get more informed about how many resources there are, so that can keep growing and keep reaching and helping more people.
Absolutely. What are some things, just thinking, since people are already listening at this point, what are some things that people can do at home, as far as, or even not home, they could be driving, whatever, that they can do with themselves to kind of reaffirm that everything can work out and everything's okay, and or that maybe this dark cloud isn't really dark at all?
Mm-hmm.
Are there little like tricks that people can do as far as just kind of like coping and whatnot?
So many things. hire me as your therapist.
That's a good start.
There's so many tools. I have spoken to so many people in my DMs. So again, that's open. I'm always willing to talk to anybody who is dealing with anything and provide resources. But some of the things that my therapist has given me that has helped, I can again speak for what has helped me. I don't know if it will help you. I hope that it does. But journaling, people are like, therapy, that means you're just writing in your diary and like talking good about yourself, you know? But man, journaling is the best, safest space that somebody can have to release their thoughts. It's hard to get started, honestly. It's a little bit awkward and you're just like, dear diary, but it's not like that at all. There are so many resources, and even I post a lot of like prompts that you can talk about, like today I feel blank or whatever, or I'm trying to think of some of the other ones like that I posted on my account. Things that bring me most comfort are blank. I feel most myself when blank. And those are just like kind of directing you to explore different things. When somebody asks you, when do you feel most like yourself? You sit there and you're like, So, you know, you have to think about it. Yeah, those are questions where you're just like, what? You know, so write it out. Get it all down on paper. You don't have to read it later. You can if you want. Sometimes for me, I write stuff down, close the book, and I don't even want to touch it. But sometimes I can go back and read certain things and see, wow, I've made so much progress that I didn't even feel that I was having, but look at me at this point in time and then look at me now. So journaling, DM me about it. I can help you get started. And then one of the other main activities that I always tell people, if you've messaged me before, I've probably told you this, is the struggle of negative self-talk. I don't know why, for some reason, everybody says it, it's so common, we are our own worst critics, like we know that, but at the same time, we still have so many self-destructive thoughts. And I've been working on this with my therapist, just kind of interrupting those thoughts. So I have a post on there about positive self-talk, and you kind of make like a comparison chart, like one of those little T tables, and one side is negative thoughts and one side is positive thoughts, and you'll put on there things like, negative side, I don't think I can make it through this. And then on the other side, you counter that with, I am powerful and I am capable of getting through this. And it sounds like fluff, but when you say that, when's the last time somebody actually said like, I am powerful or I am capable of doing this? So often it's the other thing, like, damn, I don't think I could do this. Right. Or I don't know about this. You know, it's all those thoughts. So first, it'll be like a T-table activity. This is my thought. This is the better thought. And then later on, without even noticing, it became in my head. So now I'm like, damn, I can't create content. Like I'm feeling down about like this account. And then right away, my head is like, no, you can do it. Just make something for this day. And maybe, you know, and then it'll be some like motivational thing, like you can do it. So that's a huge activity. I highly recommend it because you come to find that those things on the positive side, you almost never tell yourself. Right. So like, I am proud of myself. Like I've never said that out loud. I am doing like a billion things. My therapist is like, you're in school and you're living on your own and you're working full time. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's more people in the world who are doing more than me, you know?
That's part of it too. It's we're so used to us, and then in this day and age of quick access to information, whether it's for entertainment or for news or whatever it is, we see both the greatness and the darkness that's out there. And so it's easy to compare ourselves to greatness. And then when we see darkness, we're like, oh man, somehow like comes back to yourself in some weird way. but it's easy to fall into this trap of social media. I think it's also, while we're on it, be smart with your social media usage, and maybe reconsider like who you're following, and you know, if it's, maybe just consider like, hey, if I follow this account, like, what do I do right after? Or what are my thoughts during this time? Right? I think that'd be a smart thing to do.
Yeah, social media in itself, I feel like, is its own mental health topic. Like, I feel like there should be a textbook written. Maybe I'll write the textbook. Like,
Yeah.
social media is its own beast. Like, the pressures of social media can really drive somebody into the ground. And I know we both, I'm sure, experience it, and so many people are experiencing it. And so it's just being mindful.
Right.
We're also self-destructive, and we have to find those gateways and paths that are harder to find for some reason that can help us just uplift ourselves. So
Right. It's interesting, especially growing up in sports. And the way I explained this to someone the other day was that I was an athlete growing up, and then I was a closet artist the entire time as well. And I still love sports, and I'm still involved in movement and, you know, martial arts, and I love watching it and being part of it. But the art side, the way that interacts with being a competitor all your life, and even in art, especially with music, it can be very competitive when you go into, like, say, an academic front, or even just going back to social media. I do a cover of a song on TikTok or YouTube, and then I go watch someone else's version of that. It's like, oh man, the way they did that, man.
why not you do mine?
Yeah,
Like,
they changed the chords, they chose better notes, and I just did the plain old version, or my, you know, interpretation wasn't as creative or as skillful, and so then you go down this rabbit hole. And yeah, for the longest time, really, I would say until maybe this year or the year before. This year, I can say for sure that I've completely wiped out the whole perfectionist side of me, which has been huge, and that played a huge
that's
role. And
amazing.
I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised because when I'll like hear what I say to myself out loud, because I start thinking out loud now. I don't know when that started, but that hasn't always happened. Or even just the things I hear myself say in my head, and I'm like, oh wait, what? Like, I'm so like nonchalant. It's like, oh, that wasn't your best note, and you're just like, shoot again, like no big deal. But before I'd get on myself, it's like, oh, that recording sucked, man. How many times did you do this? How long has it been, man? It's been, you know, 30 minutes just for this one little part. Are you serious? And I think a lot of that came from sports and being like, okay, well, the only way to be good, right? You know you're good if you win. So to win, you got to be better than the other people, and so you got to compete and prepare yourself that way, right? What are they doing that I'm not? Or what am I doing that is giving me the edge? And so I think that was like, for me, I realized that was really the toxic mentality that did not work so well, you know, in other parts of life, especially with something I love so much as a passion, like music, or acting and other art endeavors, and now comedy. Luckily, I'm not a perfectionist as a comedian. That would be terrible. But yeah, I think it's so easy to do that, especially with social media. But yeah, guys, I think what gave me the biggest, sense of relief was that I saw other people improving over time, because I grew up with the internet and YouTube and watching people, even like mainstream artists. But I'll show like AJ, like one of my favorites from back in the OG YouTube days. JR Kino, Jeremy Passion, all those guys, Asian YouTube, Wong Fu. If you watch like old Wong Fu skits, those videos are like in choppy 2000s quality. And now they're doing like full length movies, and that inspired me to go ahead and be like, oh, okay, all I have to do is keep doing my thing and keep trying, because
Yeah.
every attempt, you're just, that much better. And the other thing I've learned over time is if you're not if you're not laughing, you're learning, right? And I use it as a kind of like a comedy thing if a joke doesn't go over well. But I use it quite seriously too, where if, you know, when you're laughing, you're at the top, you're having a good time, you're on top of the world and there's no worries. But when you're not at the top, then you should be learning, you know, figuring out, okay, well, how do I get to where I want to be? And, you know, just keep the set that, hey, the hill's right there. You know, it's not too far off. I just got to keep doing it. As long as I do what they did, which is keep trying, I'll be right there, right with them. But if you like bag on yourself and you stop and you're giving yourself these roadblocks of like, I'm not enough or I'm not good at what I do, then it's so hard to overcome that. And luckily I found inspiration with others with their improvements so I can accept my own slow improvement, because we analyze it a little bit more within ourselves, where other people are just like, oh, look, they did that and that. And I'm just like trucking away every single day, but I'm not living their life either. They're probably going through the same thing.
Yep.
Whatever you guys look up to, I challenge you to go look at any of their old content, their old sports games, their old music videos, TikTok videos, drawings, whatever you're into. Look at it. You probably see like, oh, wait a minute, like that's not quite as good as where they're at right now. I'm not saying it's bad, but when you get to a certain level, it's like there's always room for improvement. And so you guys should enjoy the journey, especially as a creative or even as a professional too. Just because someone else is crushing it and putting up the numbers doesn't mean that you can't. You just got to figure out how you're going to do it, right? Just keep putting in the work and take joy. I know that's the biggest thing is take joy in other people's success, right? That's what changed the game.
It more than it's not for you and it's for somebody else. So
right, like that's why we're doing this episode. I saw your page and like made me one so happy because of the topic that it surrounds, but two, the fact that it's just like, oh, you just started this, and then there's all these people that are so involved, and there's a lot of people I know too that are following the page and getting into it, and that makes me happy. And when Devin's like doing a dance thing every time he drops a video, like that makes me happy that they're getting to do what you guys want, and when I see other people doing what they want, and then I'll do the thing where I go back and look at like, oh man, yeah, they were good then, but because they put in all this work, now they're even better than that. And it's so awesome. And I think that's maybe a better way to use social media. If you ever go down the sad rabbit hole, just go back the other way. Just flip the script a little bit and have some fun. Use it as inspiration and motivation to just do better or feel better, whatever it is.
100%, dude. I was talking to Devin the other day, and that's my boyfriend. If you, I don't know.
That's her man's.
If you click there, you'll probably find it. But yeah, we have conversations constantly about dance and mental health, because he has never specifically been familiarized to any struggles with mental health, but since getting together, he's become a lot more aware, a lot more open to learning, and now seeing, he tells me I never knew that so many people struggled with mental health. Mm-hmm. I never knew that until now. And you have to also think that there are people who don't even know about it and who have never dealt with it, who are also learning about it. So having these conversations are the best thing that can happen right now. And even the way you point out social media and art and mental health, that triangle, it's like a love triangle, fighting with each other. Right. He talks to his students and talks to people all the time about beating yourself. He's always talking about you're trying to not compete with others, but compete with what you last put out. So you were saying, if you're making a cover, you're looking at somebody and you're like, damn, he did this and this, but what about me, And dancers have similar thoughts. They I don't want to put out this video because look at so-and-so with X amount of followers doing this, and they're the same age as me, and or they're younger than me and look at what they're doing. But
Right.
when you finally flip that switch and go back and think, you know, what am I doing? What could I be doing that's not worrying about where other people are, you know? So he's always talking about, like, if you put it into any type of art perspective, improving from what you last put out, and that's really what you can, all you can ask for. And if it's not, then that's okay, and then you try again. So even sometimes, I don't know if he won't care if I'm sharing this, but he'll put something out and he'll be like nervous about it, and I'm like, you know, you tried and you made this piece or you made this video, and you deserve to put it out there because you tried and you made it. And if it doesn't do as well number wise, as long as you're happy with it and you're happy with what you created in your own mind and in your own, you know, within your own self, then who can really tell? You know, nobody knows that you're feeling this way, so put it out and roll with it. And that's like the biggest thing. I feel like how you're talking with arts, it's like there's so many people that you can compare to, and you can sit there for hours and days and months comparing yourself to other people, and that could spread outside of the arts too. Like even in the mental health field, like there are so many therapists out there. What makes me think that I'm ever going to get clients or people are ever going to want to get help from me, you know? So it can go with anything, and all you can really do is be like a better you, because at the end of the day, that's it. You're you, and you can't change that. So big thing. A lot of people, and even myself and you and Devin have struggled with just like comparing ourselves, and social media has brought that on. But like you said, there's also a factor where you will find people who simply inspire you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've met some mental health advocates because of Instagram, and they're like amazing people, and they just want to do good and they just want to help people, and they have like hundreds and thousands of followers, but I was able to get a chance to just talk to them. And you know, you just, people are attracted to the human, and it's so easy to worry about the numbers and the analytics and all of that, but it's good to be genuine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think people get so caught up, and especially when you are trying to have something of a career, or maybe you're just like really passionate about like your hobby and your niche, whether it be arts or sports or even business, what have you. And I've seen all these things, you know, do well on social media platforms. And choose what I was getting at that. It's so easy to compare and just kind of be like, oh man, like how am I ever going to do that? I think you just got to change that. When you see other people that are a little bit further down the road, it's like, great, you now know that that's possible, that they have gone this far, and that means you can too, right? And
Yeah, that's
again,
the way to put it.
right, and just being happy for them, again, using it as motivation. For me, like I get stoked. Like it's, you know, people ask me like, oh, what podcast do you listen to, or you know, what musicians like. Obviously, it comes to podcasting, like Joe Rogan's a big one. I freaking love Joe Rogan. I love it when people, you know, when he gets cool guests like Neil deGrasse Tyson or Robert Downey Jr. or you know, any big fighter, and he gets everybody on there. That's awesome. Like for me, it's like, okay, cool. Now I know where I can go with this. You know, there's kind of experimenting with the whole name of this podcast is Completely Candid, is that there really aren't any bounds, right? You know, there's so many things that could happen. You just got to let it happen and keep creating and keep pushing. And yeah, you know, it's you just gotta, you know, take it with grace and just understand like, hey, like there's even times in this episode where it's like, oh man, like it's glitching or it's lagging, or like, you know, earlier like the screen fell when I was setting up, and you know, I know one day, you know, studios are going to be an option, but I just got to keep doing this, right, and keep getting more people and sharing stories, and you know, just keep on, keep it on, and it'll happen, and it'll be okay, and I'll get better as long as I'm trying to be better, and you know, I'm doing it in good faith, and this is still where my heart is at. I think that, you know, I know where the goals are at, right? I know where the possibilities are at, and hopefully I can. For me, that's where I let my competitive side come in and be like, I'm gonna be better than Joe Rogan. I'm gonna get more guests. I'm gonna have a crazy studio too. I'll have this and that, and or if I look at artists like Bruno Mars, I envy him in like the best way when it comes to music. I'm like, he could do like R&B and reggae and like hip hop, and like, oh man, I could do that too. I'll do it. But I use it as fuel. And it's no longer like this, like, oh, I need to be this or have to be this, because if the bar is here, then if I'm not at least at the bar, then I'm not good enough. Again, kind of like going back to that whole sports thing where everything is very, it's all about metrics and analytics, where it's like, okay, you're hitting these numbers, you have these performance, metrics that you're trying to hit, right? And so if you hit those things, then there's a certain success rate if you're doing what you're supposed to do. And life isn't like that all the time, Life isn't all just numbers and performance. It's all about, also the other part, what you're talking about, just doing what you love and keep doing it and getting into it and just being genuine with your content too. I think that's like a lot of people get lost.
Yeah. So there's like this one ongoing question that my therapist is like constantly asking me. I can't even count how many times she's asked, but she'll ask me, are you patting yourself on the back enough? And I think like that's a huge thing, because I am always downplaying everything that I'm doing. And sometimes you just have to celebrate yourself, and you just have to celebrate your wins. I'm not sure if I said, but sometimes, some days, getting out of bed or waking up in the morning is your biggest accomplishment. And that should still be celebrated, because you were still able to get out of bed, and that's cool, and that's healthy. And so that's one thing. And so I'm trying to let me find something on my account that I kind of touched a little bit on this subject. I mentioned that I'm never giving myself enough credit for what I'm doing, even if it's small, if it's big. I'm always saying no to her. So nothing comes as fast as you think. And I always have to remind myself that too. So being present is important. So I'm going to read the post. It says, give yourself enough credit for what you are currently managing, rather than stressing over what has happened in the past or what might happen in the future. It's okay to take your time. Practice being present with yourself. This is something that I'm constantly telling myself, because I'm always worrying about what happened before and how that could affect me now. And then what's going to happen in the future if I do this or if I don't do this. And sometimes it's important to just center yourself and think about like, what's happening right now? What's happening in my mind right now? What's happening in my life right now? What am I doing? And yeah, just like celebrating those tiny wins.
Absolutely. And I think, and especially for us, we live in the US, and you listeners would have your own opinion. It's totally fine. I don't think any country is perfect. However, it is a first world nation. We do have a lot of freedoms. There's freedom of speech and expression. And even though we have a lot going on that we are trying to work towards and make better, we have paved roads, there's grocery stores, around every corner. And, we don't have to worry, at least in California, as much. We don't have to worry about like wildlife, like competing with us for our own food, like, and just living in 2020 in general. Even if you live, in a small village in an undeveloped nation, right? You live in the best time ever, because all these other people have spent so much time developing and creating ways to make life better, and you're reaping the benefits of that. Whether it's as simple as having, shelter, or even just a place to sleep and be efficient with how you find food, or being able to wake up in Southern California, home of the Lakers, Dodgers, Angels, Disneyland, some of the most beautiful beaches, and all these crazy things. And I think now, speaking directly to Americans, and furthermore, citizens of developed nations that are financially out there in advance, right? Financially, maybe more, should be saying industrially advanced and having infrastructure and whatnot. But we take those things for granted, having stoplights and having food available or in our fridge, or at least having the opportunity to go buy food at a reasonable price in reasonable condition, on a whim.
Yeah.
And, we actually, you and I have been on a mission together in Mexico, and having gone to the Philippines several times throughout my life to visit and reconnect with my homeland. Half Filipino, shout out to people out there. You know how we do it. But going back to the Philippines, it's third world nation. Mexico is a third world nation, and I'd say the Mexico trip was like my most recent visit. And the project that we worked on was like up on the hill, like way out, and so there's not even really a road. There's a trail that has just been developed from cars going up, and there are homes there, and we were there to build homes for the people there. And it was amazing to see like how simple life was.
Yep.
And just like they literally live from sunrise to sunset, and that's the day. And even after we had built homes, and even though there's a string of homes there, the local government, at least at the time, I don't know about now, didn't see that there were enough homes for it to start a project to bring electricity through to those homes. And so that was, or water, right? And so water, they had to go get themselves. And it was crazy to think that we put in so much work to do that, and they still didn't even get to have full use of what we were able to provide and help them out with. And we just take turning our lights on for granted, and being able to flush our waste down with water, and if you don't think twice about it. I mean, I don't have one right now, but man, bidets, I think bidets are amazing. Those things are so freaking cool. You feel clean, but that's such a luxury, man. And
it's
I don't know.
Sure.
You could be working, the local fast food joint, and you could be tired. You could be hustling and maybe even barely making it. But if you're out here especially like the United States or any country like it, you're doing pretty well, man. You're doing well. You'd be surprised. And if you don't understand quite yet, then maybe find a way to expose yourself to other places and other people, so you can really get a grasp on just how good we have it. I think it's the same thing. It ties back in with what we were talking about earlier. We get so used to ourselves, and so it goes back to comparing. And when we see better things, and because we live in Southern California, we see people that are having just insane amounts of success, with designer bags and driving Lamborghinis, and even running into celebrities. Sometimes you're just like, what the heck? Like, that person's a gold, and it seems like something you should only see in a TV show. And so when it's actually in front of you, you're just like, oh wow. And even though you may have I don't want to drop any cards. I don't want to drop any value in anyone's stock. I don't know if I have that much influence, but whatever, like regular economy car that you may have, or even a bike, man, a bus pass available to you, so you can just go wherever. Like, not everyone has that, and it's so crazy to think that we just don't even think twice, and we're so like, oh, I don't have PlayStation 5 yet. or the new Tesla car, or that bigger house with more amenities and a better neighborhood and all those crazy things. It's so silly how we get caught up in basically, I don't even consider it reality. It's just like getting further into this dream world, which is amazing that we get to play in it. But I think everyone, no matter who you are, could always take a moment to step back and appreciate that you're winning to some degree. You're definitely winning somehow. Winning in life daily. And if you know what that is, And that's for the real ones from back in the day.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. There's always so many things to be thankful for, and we, the two of us, have the privilege of being able to say that. And on my page, actually, like every morning, I try to put up like a reflective question. And I always find myself gravitating to asking my followers, like, what are things that you're grateful for? What is something that you can do today that makes you happy? Because I truly feel like most important things that impact us are the smallest things. If I could just like pull an example, like waking up was already one, but if I can just be a little bit more in detail, I think it was 2 days ago. My boyfriend and I, Devin, had like some things that we had to do, and then for a couple hours we sat on the couch and we binged we watched 2 movies. And I was just like sitting there and I was like, this is something that I'm actually really grateful for, that we could just spend 4 hours in our day and watch 2 movies and hang out with each other and spend time together. And so I'm always prompting like my followers to think of those things. Like, what are some things you're thankful for? Oh, my niece called me today and FaceTimed me. Like, that's so tiny,
Right.
But like, I'm celebrating it because, you never know when that's going to be gone, or when you can't be, when you can't do that anymore. So just like always reminding myself that even though you might be struggling with something or you're going through something, there is, I guarantee you, one thing that you can be thankful for, whether it's waking up or whether it's somebody complimented you or somebody. My best friend actually just bought this like little crochet like potato and she didn't tell me, and it came in the mail yesterday, and I was like, this is so cute, and she thought of me, and that made my day. So super big advocate for like those tiny little things that you can just be thankful for, that you sometimes could take for granted. But yeah,
that's another one too, man, is reaching out and doing little things. For me, it's lately, I've like been on myself to do this for so long, but the past couple weeks or so, I've really actually been executing to where I'm happy with it, because lately I've just been hitting the comment section and giving people feedback on their work, even if it's something I'm not like super familiar with. I think as a creative, it's very doable to appreciate other people's art and their work. And so I've just been doing my best to like, hey, go further than a like, or then scrolling past it or bookmarking it and not giving them any attention. Like going out there, commenting, giving them like a solid, it doesn't have to be, a novel about their song or their comedy thing, or even their dance that they do. Just be like, hey man, even if it's just like, that was great. And if you can, just like, hey man, like there was a songwriter that commented on the other day. I was like, oh man, that's a great song, very well written. Try to get more specific, man. I think people appreciate it if you're giving some sort of detail, showing that you actually took the time to not only consume, what they're doing, but also take the time to just say that and get that deep, even if it's just 1 or 2 sentences. That makes my day sometimes, just, I was just saying earlier, when people tell me, I'm doing what I can to build up this podcast, and even when it's people I know who, your friends and family are most likely to be the ones watching at first, I still get surprised when someone's watching. I'm just like, oh man, they said, oh yeah, this episode was so-and-so talking about whatever topic. Man, that was awesome, a lot of fun, man. That's it. That's all I need. For me, that'll change the whole direction of my day, because it's like, wow, now this person's taking time to appreciate me and my existence and what I'm doing.
Exactly. Support, man. It's like the biggest thing. Honestly, like I just remembered this, I don't know, I think it was a TED Talk that I listened to for one of my classes last week, about this girl who had experienced trauma, but her lecture was based on the importance of human connection and like supporting people and having those connections is for some reason so hard in this world. Like, you don't want to comment on somebody's post because someone else is going to see it and they're going to judge you, or you don't want to support this person because like it doesn't, like, I don't know, I can't even think that way, but like, because it doesn't uplift you or it doesn't affect you or something. But like, I'm such a big advocate for like, just if it resonates with you, share it. If you like it, tell that person. If you feel that somebody's struggling with something, reach out. Like, literally, just the other day I saw a friend, like, just, it was just like a casual tweet, like, why am I crying, or like something like that. And you would just normally scroll past that, but I went and I texted that person and I was like, why are you sad, or like, why are you crying? And then they actually told me. And you know, sometimes people are just like hoping for a life raft, and taking that extra step to support them, even if it's just like supporting their art or supporting what they do, or actually reaching out to, you know, check up on them, it goes a long way. And even for me, like, when people respond to my story and they like answer my questions, I get excited. Like, so I'm like, what made you happy today? And then somebody's like, I took a walk outside. And I'm like, yay, like, you know, I get so excited. Just like that human connection, man, so important.
Yeah, I had, for like the first time in a while, I talked to strangers in public.
I saw a tweet about that.
Yeah, dude, it was amazing. And now the coffee shop that I went to, my friend, his family owns it, and he was working there. He's like, hey man, so like, what's up with you and that girl? I was like implying that there was some romantic thing going on, and I was like, no, it wasn't even like that. It was just, we were just having a good conversation, and it was flowing, and man, like, it just felt so good, and it changed my day just because we were just talking and sharing ideas, and that was it, man. Sometimes it's as simple as just talk to someone, even if it's just being happy. Like, you could have someone post, say, hey, today is a good day, and then you send them a message saying, hey, today is a good day.
Yeah.
That's it. It could be something so silly and simple as that, but it'll just change the trajectory. And so, yeah, that's my challenge for myself, not just for this year, but carrying on. It just talk to people, say what you're thinking, even if you don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, because it really could just change everything for them and just make them feel like $1,000,000.
Yeah, dude. And I feel like you already, like, knowing you as a person, you're like pretty outspoken, and you could be social in that way. And I right now sound like I am, but I'm like honestly a pretty private person. So I've been working on that too, just like engaging with people, and you know, because there are connections out there that you never know that you would have if you don't try. So yeah, I think that's super cool. I like don't even know if I could go and talk to a stranger yet like that, but you know, when the connection flows, it flows.
Yeah,
So
it's a process. It's not something I've always been able to do. It's, my natural inclination in most social settings, when there are people that I don't know, is to watch and observe, and then kind of collect what's going on. Who is this person? What is their personality? Without, I'll engage enough to like still be present. But for the most part, especially if it's like in a group of mutual friends, where it's like we both have the same friend, and then there's the stranger is a friend of my friend, I'll kind of let them do the talking for a little bit and just see like what's going on. That's what I usually want to do. And so it's taken time. Same thing with like being like a perfectionist, and it's just a process. I guess it's just like creating and building up your confidence. And what we were talking about earlier is the same deal. You just got to keep trying, keep doing. And whether it's creating content or diving into your hobby or your career or your mental health, right? Your emotional health, and talking to people and doing those little things, you just got to keep doing it, and then you'll get better, right? You can't expect to play a 10-minute guitar solo if you just play guitar, for 5 minutes of your life. You got to practice, right? Same thing. It's going to be hard to dunk if you don't, at least first learn how to dribble a basketball. Exactly. So it takes time, man.
I think that's like a big misconception for therapy and like mental health. journeys in itself. Like people
Like people
think,
are expecting like a huge like revelation out of
yeah, like
nowhere.
you walk into therapy and all of a sudden like all of your problems go away. Like, no, you are gonna put in the work to get there. Like even myself, it's so weird to think about now, but I actually went to therapy when I was in high school, and I didn't want to, but I did it and I hated it. I was like, forget this. I'm not gonna tell this stranger lady like anything about
She
myself.
don't know me like that.
If you don't know me like that, I don't want to tell her like private details about what's going on with me. And she's just telling me to write my thoughts down and blah. And I'm like, look at me now. So that came full circle. And honestly, investing in yourself, investing in your mental health is like one of the things that could pay off the most. Like I'm not even there yet. I come from a place where I'm like constantly learning and constantly like working on my own mental health journey. Um, but yeah, like checking in with yourself so that you can check in with other people. That's a really big thing. I think I even had a post recently. It was like, don't be so busy taking care of other people that you don't check in with yourself. So I think kind of snowballing off what we were talking about, just like connecting with other people, that's a big thing. And then you can use that to kind of like fuel yourself. How am I being affected? How can I be better? What can I do? And then you can turn that back around and like project it to other people and be able to help. And so it all kind of just like circulates.
Yeah. Building on top of that too, guys, if you see people reaching out to help, like especially consistently, might be nice to reach out to them because not
Yeah.
everyone's being checked up on, even if they're in the realm of checking up on people. I see it all the time. You know, it doesn't matter what area or subject, but keeping it relevant. I see people all the time who are giving, are willing to be that shoulder to cry on or giving advice or even counselors. And I think we forget because they're there to help so many other people that we're just like, oh, okay, yeah, well, they probably got to figure it out or, they're sorted, right? It's all good.
Yeah.
Like they're already in that world. I don't see why they wouldn't have it. And so remembering that those people are human too,
Yeah.
so check on everyone that you can. Ask how they're doing.
I've been actually told multiple times that some of the best therapists are the ones that are the most decorated with experience.
Yes.
So, like, sometimes even me, like, at the beginning, still, like, at the beginning of this career, I'm always constantly doubting, like, damn, how am I going to help all these people if I'm struggling with this, and that? And, like, if I haven't even healed with this, how am I going to help that person heal with theirs? But it's important to remember that everybody's on their own path and you never know what other people are going through and they never know what you're going through. So it's always important to be aware of that. And yeah, check in. Check in is huge. Sometimes, I'm putting out all this stuff and in my head I'm like, I'm not even listening to any of the things that I'm telling other people. So it's important. It's so important to do that, especially with mental health, because you can find yourself in a rabbit hole. And sometimes I do that and I'm like in this tiny little dark circle. But on my account, I'm like, do this and talk positive about yourself. Like, like do breathing exercises and whatever. But at home, like, am I doing the breathing exercises? Am I checking in? Am I seeing where my mental head space is at, and stuff like that? So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think we are actually at a pretty good spot to start wrapping things up. However, before we go, I want to leave people with maybe a little something they could do as far as just some things they could do to start their day right and set the tone to have a bright and positive day. Do you have anything that they could take home and try out?
100%. Honestly, I'm still working on this myself because it's hard to build habits and so when I wake up in the morning, I try to check in with myself and think of 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then I do some breathing exercises to kind of calm and center my body before I start my day. It's so easy to throw around breathing exercises, but I truly have found that it has helped me. Just closing your eyes, centering yourself where you're at, taking a deep breath in for 5 seconds and a deep breath out, and repeating that a couple times. It'll naturally just calm your body. And then thinking of the things that you're grateful for. And if you don't want to answer that one every day, you can also switch it back and forth with 3 things that you are looking forward to working on. So those are good day starters. And yeah, I always am telling people to do that. So.
Alrighty, folks. Well, I hope that we covered something that has piqued your interest, and hopefully you just learned a little bit, but a lot today. And yeah, I mean, this was a good talk, and I feel like there's times where I went off, but I'm just super passionate about this myself. And again, I'm super excited that you now have this page and it's growing so quickly, and hopefully it's helping a lot of people just tackle their everyday just a little bit better and keeping them a little bit brighter and showing that there's hope. And yeah, I'll make sure that there are links and everything as much as possible so they can find whatever they need and find your page, of course. And I think we are all set and good to go. Do you have any other last words?
Just to bounce off what you're saying, hopefully this reached someone, at least one person, because one person is good enough for me, that needed to hear it. So yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you. Excited about what you're doing. And yeah, let's do it. Come up together. Let's hustle and take care of yourselves.
Alrighty, folks. All right. Please stay on the call, and I'm going to end the recording here in 3, 2, and bye-bye. Alrighty, folks. Hopefully you learned something today. If not, then you might be on a good path. Hopefully you will take the time to either use this information for yourself. If not, maybe it might be a good idea to go ahead and post this somewhere where someone can see and stumble upon it. Maybe you know someone that could use some of the resources and the links in the description. Please take advantage of those. Even if you're in a great spot, not everyone is at the moment, and that is okay. Sometimes we just need a little help, a little guidance, and that's it. Just take someone like you to go ahead and show them a way, give them a door, and just open it a little bit so they can walk through. Alrighty, folks. Hopefully you will have a great rest of your 2020. Hopefully I didn't just jinx it. We can do this, guys. We're more than capable. There always are opportunities for us to turn things around. All we have to do is give it a shot. We just need to try. That is it. You're amazing. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you. And bye-bye.